Hello everybody, I am Triveni Sureshbabu, the Senior Trainer of Skillzenith Consulting. Today I am discussing about the culture of the Vedic period from Karnataka State Board Class 6 Social Science Lesson number 5. Now the Vedas are introduced in this lesson. The differences between the social, economical, political and religious systems of the pre-Vedic and post-Vedic periods are explained here. Pre means before, post means after. With the arrival of the Aryan race, which was originally from Central Asia, a new culture emerged in India. That's only called as Vedic culture. This is called the Vedic culture of the plains of river Saraswati. Why means people settled around the bank of the river Saraswati and later the plains of the river Ganga. The period in which the Vedic literature was formed is called as Vedic period. The word Veda means knowledge. You know, India is a land of Vedas. The knowledge of Veda flourished in India after the emergence of the Aryan race. There are 4 Vedas, namely Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and Atharvana Veda. Among these, Rig Veda is the most ancient one. These Vedas were in Sanskrit, that is the ancient language of Indian soil, and were in the oral form for thousands of years because writing was not prominent during that period. So the Vedas were transferred from one generation to another generation orally. The river Saraswati is frequently mentioned in Rig Veda. We have come across many shlokas. When we take bath, we utter the mantra Gangecha Yamune Chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalaismin Sannidhim Kuru. In this Veda mantra, all the important rivers of India are mentioned. The Ghaggar-Akra river, which disappeared in the Thar desert of Rajasthan, is believed to be the ancient river Saraswati. We have studied in the ancient civilization that overuse of the water for the life. So it might have resulted in the conversion of the fertile soil into the desert. It is also believed that the Helmand river, which is in Afghanistan, is the ancient Saraswati river. The 4 Vedas and the related literature were formed during the period of Aryan. That means literature was written by the Aryans during those period. The Vedic literature is the only source to understand the history of the Vedic period. We have studied in history that literature is also an important source to study the history. So, Vedic history is studied on the basis of the literature, Vedic literature. The period for Rig Veda is called as Pre Vedic period. So, the period for Rig Veda is called as Pre Vedic period, and the period of the other 3 Vedas is called Post Vedic period. Now, let us know or let us have some information about the Pre Vedic period. Now, let us discuss about the social life during the Pre Vedic period. Family was the basic unit in Pre-Vedic period. It was the smallest unit or the primary unit in the society. Father was the head of the family. That means patriarchal type of family existed. Joint family system was in practice. In ancient time, joint family played a very predominant role in the social system. The prisoners of war called Dasas and Dasyus were treated like slaves. So, the prisoners, when they were captured as prisoners, they were treated as the slaves. So, prisoners were treated as the gulams. The Aryans knew the liquors, Soma and Sura. On some occasions, religious occasions and marriage and like other occasions, they used the liquors like Soma and Sura. Now, let us know about the position of the women. How were women during this early Vedic period or pre-Vedic period? The women held a respectable position in society. So, if we study about the position of women, we should be proud to know that women had a very good status in the society. She got respect in the society. They even participated in the political institutions. That means women participated in the political activities. Widow remarriage was in practice. See, the people were so broad-minded that widows were allowed to marry again. This shows the position of the women. Women also studied Vedas. So, women were allowed to study the Vedas. We will come across many names. Women, Ghosha, Apala, Lopamudra, Indrani, Vishwavara were the scholars of the Vedic period. Scholars means Panditru. So, now in Vedadalli, who will attain good knowledge in Veda, they are called as scholars or Panditru ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So women were there in the society who studied Veda in deep. Child marriages and Sati system were not practiced during the period. This is a point to be noted that the social evils were not practiced. Social evils like child marriage and Sati system were not practiced during this period. Now let us move on to the economic life of the prehistoric period. Rearing animals, cattle rearing and agriculture were the basic occupation of the Aryans. They grew a variety of cereals. They used barley, rice, fish meat as their food. They knew the use of iron and other metals. So metallurgy was known to them during this period. Weavers of cotton and wool, that means cotton and wool were available. From this point we'll come to know that cotton and wool were available during this period. Apart from weavers, there were carpenters and blacksmiths as well as potters, because pots were used in large number during that period. Agriculture, medicine and priesthood were the major occupation. People were engaged in different occupations such as agriculture, medicine and priesthood. Priesthood means paurohitya, because so many religious functions were held. Homas, yagas were conducted. That's why priesthood was also the major occupation in the society. People were allowed to choose a profession of their choice. Now we study in civics, right to job, right to have the job of their own choice ಅಂತ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. It prevailed in the Pre Vedic Society also. People were allowed to choose their own profession, jobs or occupation. Cows were considered as wealth. Cow was considered as the wealth. Now it is not like land, house and all. Cows were considered as the wealth, and very often, now and then, battles took place to gain the. Now let us move on to the political life of the pre-Vedic period. The chief of the Aryans people was called Rajan, or the king. So he was the head of the people. He was not a dictator and his kingship was not hereditary. He did not rule according to his will and wish. He was very much interested in the welfare of the people. Otherwise, you can say he was a benevolent king who was interested in the people's welfare. The political institutions like Sabha, Samiti and Vidatas played a very major role in the administration. Legislative assembly, legislative council ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಈಗ ಗ್ರಾಮ ಪಂಚಾಯತಿ. In those period, three important political institutions were in practice: Sabha, Samiti and Vidatas. People through these institutions expressed or they exerted their political activities. The king was also a judge. There were no lawyers and there was no court in ancient time. So king himself was the judge and he gave verdicts. Verdicts means final judgment. So after listening to both the parties, he will give the final verdict, or after discussing with the elders of his court. Elders were there in the court. That means Rajanasthandalli there were many scholars and people who had the knowledge of law and politics. People used any issues, any problems came into his court. He used to discuss with the other elders in the court and give the final verdict. Fighting in the battles, protecting the lives of the people, safeguarding the wealth and the welfare of people, as well as ensuring the safety of cows were the duties of the king. See, king discharged many duties. Nowadays, how ministers will discharge their duties in different areas. But king, he was fighting the battles when enemies attacked the land. He protected the life of the people. He safeguarded the wealth and welfare of the people, as well as he ensured the safety of the cows, because cows were considered as the important source of wealth. These were considered as the duties of the king. Rajana kartavyagalu, pramukha kartavyagalu anta ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So involved in these duties. Now let us move on to the religious life. Aryans worshipped gods like Indra, Surya, Soma, Varuna, Mitra, Yama, Ashwini, etc. ಅಷ್ಟದಿಕ್ಪಾಲಕರು ಸೂರ್ಯ ಚಂದ್ರ ಭೂಮಿ ಅಗ್ನಿ ವಾಯು ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. So in the same way, the olden people or pre-Vedic people worshipped these gods. They worshipped gods through the rituals of yagnas. Yagna, yaga, they were the religious practices. They were very complicated. They offered offerings to the god by performing yagnas. They believed that they wanted to please the god. They had to conduct yagnas and yagas. There is only one truth. People perceive it differently. Perceive means look to it. So, people will look to a matter in different angles. Truth is the same, but people will give their opinions in different manner. Let the noble thoughts come from all the corners of the world. See, very broad-minded opinion this is. So, any noble thoughts, whether it comes from any religion or any parts of the world, we have to accept. Veda has said this, that we have to accept the noble thoughts from all the corners of the world. These were the messages of the Vedas. So Vedas gave very good messages for the people. Now let us move on to the post-Vedic period. The other three Vedas period is considered as the post-Vedic period. As centuries passed, century means 100 years, hundreds of years passed, the population grew in the area of Saptasindhus. The population increased. There were changes in the lifestyles of the people. So there were limited population during the early Vedic period. Now there is a change in the society. Population increased and the lifestyles of the people also changed. This is the society's dynamic. It will be changing. So in the same way, post-Vedic period, so many changes took place in the life of the people. The people of the Vedic period migrated to the plains of Ganga, Yamuna, and some of them even crossed the mountain ranges of India and migrated towards the south. Why means they might have went in search of the fertile land. So the migration means moving from one place to another place. They moved, the people moved to the plains of Ganga, Yamuna, and even they crossed the mountain ranges of India and migrated towards the south. Now they are coming up to south. Now what were the political changes that took place in the post-Vedic period? During the post-Vedic period, the king became more powerful. The king was not like as he was in the pre-Vedic period. He became very powerful. The position of Vidata was completely diminished, decreased, lost its importance. Vidata was not at all considered by the king. Even Sabha and Samiti also lost their importance. King stopped listening to the suggestions of the members of the Sabha and Samiti. The scope of the king was widened, increased, and the kingship became hereditary. Hereditary means Vamsha Paramparya. The father was the king, next his son will become the king. Next his son will become the king. So in this way the kingship became hereditary. But in the pre-Vedic period this was not the position. The king performed rituals like Ashwamedha Yaga, Rajasuya Yaga to expand his kingdom. In order to expand the kingdom, he conducted very complicated yaga and yagnas like Ashwamedha Yaga and Rajasuya Yaga. These yagas are mentioned in our epics Mahabharata and Ramayana. You will come across these yagas. Now, what were the social changes during this period? Gotra system started during this post-Vedic period. Gotra system andre, we believe that the people will come from the origin of some rishis. ಈಗಲೂ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಕಾಶ್ಯಪ, ಕೌಂಡಿನ್ಯ, ಶಾಂಡಿಲ್ಯ, Vishwamitra, like that if you observe the people in the society, we say about our Gotra, we say that we are inherited from the family of ancient rishis. So Gotra system started during this period. 4 ashramas are the system. The 4 ashrama system came into existence, that is Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Brahmacharya means early age or childhood days, wherein the people learned they were the students in the society. They used to attain the knowledge of Veda. They were very particular in getting the education. Then Grihastha means getting married. The people were entering into the Grihastha or the family life. They were married. Then Vanaprastha, renouncing everything and going to forest. Forget about all the worldly attachment. ಸಂಸಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೇನು ಬೇಡ. we have to think about only God, and the people after getting age, they were going to forest. And last stage was sannyasa. Completely the people were indulged themselves in the religious practices, tapas, etc. during this period. So the four ashramas were brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa. These were based according to the age of the people. The position of the women was lower. So lot of changes took place from pre-Vedic period to post-Vedic period. Women had a very good position during the pre-Vedic period. Now she lost her position. It was lowered. Women were deprived of education. ವಂಚಿತರಾಗೋದು ಅಂತ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. She did not get the right to get the education and even kept away from the political institutions. She was not allowed, or women were not allowed to participate in the political institutions or administration. The Varna system came into existence. This was a very important change that took place in the social system during the post-Vedic period, which was inclusive of four Varnas. Four caste system came into existence, that is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. This Varnas were made in order to discharge different occupations, because all cannot do all the occupations. Some are specialized in some occupations or the jobs or knowledge. So Varnas were made not to discriminate the people on the basis of the caste, but to discharge their duty according to their knowledge and education. Brahmanas, they were very much interested in learning Vedas and imparting knowledge for the others, and to conduct the religious yagas, yagnas and other things. That means they were in charge of the religious institutions in the society. Kshatriyas were waging wars. They were helping the king in waging wars. Kshatriya andre, they were only to help the, or to take part in the wars. Vaishya, and they were indulged in commercial and trade activities. ವ್ಯಾಪಾರ ವಹಿವಾಟು ಎಲ್ಲ ವೈಶ್ಯಾಸ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೊತಿದ್ರು. ಶೂದ್ರಾಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ they were at the lower strata. That means they indulged in other occupations other than the religion, waging war, commerce and trade. The other menial occupations were looked after by the Shudras. Child marriage and Sati system started during this period. See, when we look at the picture of the pre-Vedic period and post-Vedic period, there has been lot of changes. Child marriages and Sati system, which are considered as the social evils, again started during this period. Polygamy started. Polygamy means one man marrying more than one woman. Bahupatnitva anta ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. This was started among the aristocratic people. Aristocratic means rich people who were at the higher strata of the social status, including the king. King also, you have come across many stories in history that king used to marry so many women, or the polygamy was in practice. See, now there are four pictures to show the different stages. Brahmacharya, I have explained. See, the student is involved in writing, reading and learning. So education, getting education was the main motto during this first stage of the life. Grihastha means marrying and to take care of the wife and children, or there was a family system. Vanaprastha means he is going for a pilgrimage, renouncing the worldly life. Sannyasa means he will renounce everything, ಎಲ್ಲಾನು ತ್ಯಾಗ ಮಾಡಿ ಬರೀ ದೇವರ ಧ್ಯಾನ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸನ್ಯಾಸಾಶ್ರಮ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. These are the four ashramas, are the stages of the men during this period. Now religious life. Now let us discuss about the religious life. Religious ceremonies became complex and complicated. So ಏನಾಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತು, ಬರ್ತಾ ಬರ್ತಾ common men or common people in the society could not understanding about the religion. It became very complicated. Klishtakara. It was not easy. The yagas and yagnas were done frequently. Now and then, again and again, people were doing yagas and yagnas. Offering milk, ghee and cereals to the fire during these yagnas led to the shortage of wood. You know, you might have observed yagas and yagnas in many temples, and during the pujas or marriage and many religious ceremonies, people will conduct yagas and yagnas. Even today we do. ಅವಾಗ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ವಿ ಆಫರ್ ಇನ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಟು ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ದ ಗಾಡ್. ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಅಗ್ನಿದೇವನಿಗೆ ಅವನು ಸಂತೃಪ್ತನಾಗ್ತಾನೆ ದೇವ್ರ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಡೂ, ವಿ ಆಫರ್ ಮಿಲ್ಕ್, ಘೀ ಅಂಡ್ ಅದರ್ ಧಾನ್ಯ, ಸಿರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಧಾನ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಗ್ನಿಕುಂಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ. ಹಾಕಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಏನಾಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತು, ಒನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ವೇ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಓಕೆ. ಯಾಗ ಅಂಡ್ ಯಜ್ಞಾಸ್ if they are conducted not frequently or once in a way, it's okay. What happened during this period, post-Vedic period, people began to indulge in so many yagas and yagnas. They went on offering milk, ghee and cereals to the fire. This resulted in the shortage of the food. Whatever has to be consumed by the people, it was used for the yagas and yagnas. Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva were considered as the major gods, important gods. Shushti, Sthiti, Laya ಅಂತ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, even today we worship these gods along with these three gods, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, goddesses Lakshmi, Saraswati, Parvati, and also Ganesha, Skanda. Skanda means Subramanya, Ganesha's brother, and other family deities got important. Kuladevate ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬಂತು. Even today each and every family will have their own god or goddesses. So people worship Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Parvati, Ganesha and Skanda. Family deities got importance during this period. Epics. Epics means Mahakavya ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. Religious books were written during this period. Valmiki wrote Ramayana and Vyasa wrote Mahabharata. These two are considered as very popular epics among the Indians. Even today, we consider it as the sacred books or the epics. These two epics have guided the life and art of Indian life. So we have to study, have the knowledge about the religious books. They will increase the values of the people. They give us so much of knowledge and they will guide the people in the society. Now, there are two new words. Sati system means to enter into the fire along with the dead body of the husband. ಸತಿ ಸಹಗಮನ ಪದ್ಧತಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಹಸ್ಬೆಂಡ್ ಸತ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಇವನ್ ದ ವಿಮೆನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಡೈ. ಅದು ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಫೈರ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅಗ್ನಿಕುಂಡಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿದ್ದು ಪ್ರಾಣತ್ಯಾಗನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಂತೆ. ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಪ್ರಿವೆಲೆಂಟ್ ಇವನ್ ಅಮಾಂಗ್ ದ ರಜಪೂತ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹೈಯರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಸ್ಟ್. ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಸತಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಪ್ರಿವೈಲ್ಡ್. ಆಫರಿಂಗ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಏನು ಹವನ ಹೋಮ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಹವಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಎ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಿಲ್ಕ್, ಘೀ, ಸೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಪುಟ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ದ ಫೈರ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಸೆರೆಮನಿ. ಯಜ್ಞ ಯಾಗ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಾವೇನು ಅಗ್ನಿಕುಂಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ, ದೇ ಆರ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಆಫರಿಂಗ್. ನೌ ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಮೂವ್ ಆನ್ ಟು ದ ಎಕ್ಸರ್ಸೈಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬುಕ್. ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಇನ್ ಒನ್ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಈಚ್. ವಿಚ್ ಆರ್ ದಿ ಫೋರ್ ವೇದಾಸ್? ದಿ ಫೋರ್ ವೇದಾಸ್ ಆರ್ ಋಗ್ವೇದ, ಯಜುರ್ವೇದ, ಸಾಮವೇದ ಅಂಡ್ ಅಥರ್ವಣ ವೇದ. Name the gods of the Rigvedic period. The gods of the Rigvedic period are Indra, Surya, Soma, Varuna, Mitra, Yama, Ashwini, etc. Name four Varanas. The four Varanas are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Name two women scholars of the Vedic period. Many names are mentioned. You can mention any two. Ghosha and Apala. Which are the epics of ancient India? Who are the authors of them? Authors andre bardiroru. The epics of ancient India are Ramayana and Mahabharata. The authors are Valmiki and Vyasa respectively. Their authors are Valmiki and Vyasa. Discuss in groups and answer the following question. What are the differences between the pre-Vedic society and the post-Vedic society? After reading the lesson, we will come to know so many changes. In pre-Vedic society, women held a respectable position in the society. Women were allowed to study and there were many scholars. Child marriage and sati system were not practiced. In post-Vedic society, the position of women was lowered. women were deprived of education. Child marriage and Sati system started during this period. Polygamy started among aristocratic people, including the king. In pre-Vedic period, the king was not a dictator and his kingship was not hereditary. The political institutions, Sabha, Samiti and Vidata played a major role in administration. In post-Vedic period, the king became more powerful. The position of Vidata was completely diminished. Even Sabha and Samiti lost their importance. The scope of the king was widened and the kingship became hereditary. In pre-Vedic period, people were allowed to choose a profession of their choice. In post-Vedic period, Varna system came into existence. Match the following words in column A with the descriptions in column B. Soma, the liquor known to Aryas. Rajan, the chief of a community. Sabha, a political institution. Ashwamedha, a holy ritual. Valmiki, Ramayana. Thanks for watching. I hope you have understood the lesson. Please watch, share, comment and subscribe. Soon I will be back with the other lesson. Thank you.